What's up, everyone? Rad here from Unity Gym, and happy Monday. It is Monday morning in Sydney, Australia, and unfortunately I don't have Yanni here today. It's just me, and I am going to be talking all things injury, how to train with injury, how to recover from injuries, and how to make sure that your progress does not go backwards when you get injured. And also I'm going to answer a few Q&As from some of the people on our movement mastermind. All that and more coming up.
We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image.
Good morning. So, as I said before, it is Monday morning in Sydney, Australia, and we are moving into autumn. It's not autumn yet. We've got another 5 or 6 days left of summer, but it's definitely starting to feel like it. So I'm wearing a jumper today. I hope you guys are enjoying the weather wherever you are in the world and whatever time of day it is. And today I just wanted to talk a little bit about injuries, because to be honest, a couple of the people in our class this morning were telling me about niggles that they had and little injuries. And this is something that we have spoken about injuries quite a few times on this show, but it's something that I feel is really important to come back to, because if you have a movement practice that is as what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe as rigorous as what ours is. Like if you're training 6 days a week and you're really trying to get better, then injuries are a part of the game. It is something that's just going to happen, and there's nothing that you can do about it. What you do need to do is understand how to deal with injuries and how to make sure that they don't stifle your progress. So there's a few little things that we use here. The first thing is you need to remove the mechanism that causes the injury. So if you're doing pull-ups and you get tendonitis, if you get golfer's elbow, and every time you do pull-ups it makes it worse, you have to stop doing pull-ups. And that's probably the hardest part for a lot of people. A lot of people really struggle with this concept of removing the mechanism that causes the injury. Another one of the really, really common ones is shin splints for runners, or it's really, to be honest, anything to do with running, because, you know, when you try and tell a runner that they can't run, they look at you like you're trying to take their religion away from them. And I get it. It's really upsetting. It's an upsetting thing to be told that you can't do the thing that you love, but your other option is that your injuries are just going to get worse. And right now it might be a choice as to whether or not you stop. If you just keep going and the injury gets worse, it won't be a choice anymore. It'll be forced upon you. And when you get to that stage, you'll be in a lot of trouble. Because if you deal with injuries the right way, most injuries you can come back from pretty quickly and get back to what you were doing. Now, in my experience, most injuries come from either a lack of strength or a lack of flexibility or incorrectly performing a movement. So if you remove the incorrectly performing a movement, because that's something that, that's a whole nother topic, and, you need to learn, what it is that you're doing and make sure that you're doing it properly. But a lack of strength and a lack of flexibility, that's something that a lot of people don't know that they have. So you might be, like forearm tendonitis, for example, is most commonly caused by a weakness in the forearms, and you're doing exercises that put too much strain on the tendons and, cause tendonitis. So by backtracking, when you realize that you're getting an injury, and, stopping the mechanism, stopping the chin-ups in this example that's causing the injury to come on, and then analyzing yourself and having a look at what is it that's causing this, and then working on either the strength that you need or the flexibility that you need to prevent it. So that's the first thing, removing the mechanism. The second thing is identifying, what it is, where the imbalance is in your body. And the third thing that I would say is, seeing a practitioner, a professional, so a physio or a chiro are the people that we prefer, or a masseuse, a really good remedial sports masseuse. And getting a few treatments on it, having a set of hands, work on you and tell you some things about your body that maybe you didn't know. But that process that I've just described, for a lot of people, in my experience, for all of the injuries that I've sustained, when I was younger, I didn't do this, and I just kept getting more and more and more injured. But, as I've gotten older and wiser, when I get injured now, I analyze my body and I have a look at what's going on and figure out where either the weakness or the lack of flexibility is. And then I spend several months after that working on that weakness and lack of flexibility. Sometimes you can fix it, in a matter of weeks, and sometimes it's a matter of months. And for some people, sometimes it's even a matter of years. So how does that affect your training program? Well, what you need to do is you need to find exercise alternatives. So the number one thing is don't do the exercises that cause you pain. So if we're talking about strength training and mobility, you need to find exercise alternatives. Like, for example, with the forearm tendonitis, it can actually be as simple as changing the grip of your pull-up. So you could go from a pronated grip to a supinated grip or a neutral grip, and that'll completely change the way that the muscles in the forearm and the elbow are being used, and it can completely remove the pain and the cause of the problem. So the first thing you do is, make changes with your exercise selection. The next thing you need to do is basically at the end of your workout, when you've finished all your primary strength movements, you need to do rehabilitation exercises. And every joint and every muscle is different for this. Of course, there's going to be different things that you need to do. So I'm not going to go through every joint, but I'm going to go through the basic strategy for rehabilitating muscles. First, you need to identify if it's a flexibility issue or a strength issue. And if it's a flexibility issue, obviously you need to work on increasing your range of motion. So a really common one for this is shoulder impingement, shoulder problems, because people can't get their shoulders above their head. When that happens, if you try and force your shoulders above your head by doing something like a shoulder press or a pike push-up or handstand push-up, then you're going to run into massive problems because the shoulders can't go there. You force them to go there with external load, and you're going to have major problems. Another really common issue for this, a common instance for this would be a squat, where people don't have the flexibility to go into a full range squat. So then what they do is they load themselves up with a barbell and then force their body into a full range squat. And that is one of the best ways to cause lower body injuries, is to force your body with weight into a position that it can't go into without weight. So if that's the case, then you definitely need to start working on joint specific mobility or movement specific mobility until that range of motion increases. If it's a lack of strength thing, if it's a weakness thing, then you need to do conditioning exercises. And the general rule of thumb for the way that you start, the way that you go through a conditioning process for injured muscles is you start with isometric load. Isometric load puts the lowest amount of strain on the injured muscles. And you want to basically do sets where you hold for about 30 seconds and you go to maybe 4 out of 10 on the pain scale. So you should bring on the feeling of discomfort, but only to a 4 out of 10. Any less than that, you're not really challenging the muscles hard enough, and any more than that, you're potentially going to do more damage to the injury. And the golden rule for this is, if you experience pain the next day in the injured joint, so if you had no pain in the injured joint when you weren't exercising, and then you do your exercises where you go to a 4 out of 10, and then the next day after that you're experiencing pain in those muscles or that joint when you're doing nothing, then that's an indication that you've gone too far and you've pushed yourself a little bit too hard in those rehabilitation exercises. Excuse me. Oh. So the next thing you want to do after isometric loading is concentric loading. This sounds weird to a lot of people. The concentric loading is when you're moving against gravity. So with the pull-up, the concentric phase is when you pull to the top of the bar. The eccentric phase is when you lower down. But research shows that the majority of damage to the muscle fibers actually happens during the eccentric loading phase. So what we want to do is we want to save the eccentric loading for last. So the way that you'll do that is say I was doing a bicep curl, I'm trying to do rehabilitation on my biceps or my forearms. I'm going to do a concentric rep, and then I support my arm as the weight comes back down so that I'm not actually taking the muscles through the eccentric loading, which is where you're going to do the most damage. And then once you've built up enough strength with that, then the last phase of rehabilitation is eccentric loading. So what you can do there is you can help the arm up, and then you lower down nice and slow and controlled through the eccentric loading. And that's the general rule of thumb for dealing with an injury with the way that you approach your rehabilitation. So let's have a recap. You're injured, you can feel an injury. You're going to remove the mechanism that caused the injury. So stop doing the exercises that caused the injury, find exercise alternatives, find a way to do your workout without aggravating the injury. Then go and see a practitioner. Find somebody that knows more than you do about it and that can diagnose your injury properly, so you're not just saying, oh, I've got pain in my shoulder, because then from there they'll be able to tell you very specifically what it is that you shouldn't be doing. And also the treatment itself is a big part of the rehabilitation process, in my opinion. Then what you want to do is try to identify if it's a lack of flexibility or a lack of strength, and then either mobilize or strengthen, and do your strengthening exercises at the rehabilitation exercises at the end of the workout. And that is, in a nutshell, that's a strategy for overcoming injuries that works really well for us. We've developed that strategy from many years of trial and error on ourselves, research and development, from reading a hell of a lot of books, and also being very fortunate enough to have a good relationship and a good friendship with a couple of excellent physiotherapists and chiropractors and sports masseuses, so that we can speak to people that know a hell of a lot more than us about injury diagnosis and injury treatment, to formulate a plan that works really well for us and our members. So hope you guys got something out of that. And it looks like YouTube's telling me that an error has occurred. No, there it is. Okay, cool. Sorry about that. When I looked down, YouTube was telling me that an error had occurred. But yeah, look, that strategy works really well for us. And if I add a couple of other things, things that you really need to make sure that you're doing as well when you're injured is you need to be getting enough sleep. We've all heard this. I don't know if you guys can hear, I can barely breathe. I've got a really blocked nose over here. My son just started at daycare, and he's brought an illness home. So Alana, my fiance, and I have both gotten sick. So I can barely breathe properly. Rest and recovery is really important. When we've all heard this, that the body does all its repairing at nighttime in deep sleep, and that's the absolute truth. That's when our body heals itself on a cellular level. So you need to be making sure that you're getting enough sleep. So if you're doing all of the stuff that I just said, but you're going to sleep at midnight and getting up at 6 a.m. and then you get to the weekend and you're drinking and you're getting through your days by having Red Bulls and coffee, then you're not going to heal those injuries. You're really not. You need to be making sure that you're giving yourself enough rest and recovery. And then the other thing that you want to be doing is eating healthy foods. You really need to eat good food. And, we recommend intermittent fasting and just a whole food diet following the modified Mediterranean diet. So just a really good variety of food. Have the supplements that have been proven to have a positive effect on the body. So forget all the rubbish. Just what we recommend is creatine, a good protein supplement, and L-glutamine as well, so creatine monohydrate. Also, we like to have a greens supplement. Greens is really good, and just to help boost your immune system. And also, what else is really good is bone broths. Bone broths are going to be really good for you. And try to remove food, become familiar with foods that cause inflammation, and remove foods that cause inflammation. So a lot of really common things that cause inflammation are alcohol, sugar, dairy, and gluten. Those are the ones that I try to avoid most commonly. And yeah, guys, besides that, if you've got any questions, if any of you are suffering with any injuries and you need any help, please leave a comment and we will get to you as soon as we can. Yanni will be back with us tomorrow. So I look forward to seeing you guys then. And until then, have a great day. Enjoy your training. And I hope none of you have any really bad injuries that are preventing you from doing what you want today. See you later, guys. Have a great day.
We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image.